Well, hey there, Mama, and welcome back to the Mom's Overcoming Overwhelm podcast, episode number 252. I'm Emily McDermott, and I'm here beside you on this journey as we work together to declutter your home, head, and heart. Today's episode is inspired by a listener question, and her question is, help! My husband wants to hold on to more than I do. What do I do? Well, this is a very common issue in relationships, and we have spoken on the podcast before about kids and other family members and spouses, and the fact that we're all living in this house, yet we have different opinions as to what we should keep and what we should hold on to. So I'm really excited to dive into this because this particular question is a little different than what you normally hear about, especially husbands. Sorry to put you on the spot, husbands, but wanting to hold on to more than we do. So why don't you grab that notebook and pen and let's dive into today's episode. Hey Mama, are you tired of your cluttered home and mile-long to-do lists but are too overwhelmed to know where to start? Do you lack the time and motivation and don't think you'll ever conquer the clutter? You're in the right place. I'm Emily, wife, boy mom, and declutter coach who has overcome the overwhelm in my own life through decluttering and simplifying. I believe every mom deserves the peace that comes from a clutter-free home. Ready to get your life back? Let's declutter your home, head, and heart together. I want to announce the winner of Michael and Smith's new book, House Hushing. Really appreciate the people that shared the show and then also left reviews. And the winner is Yang Eduardo. I will be contacting you via email and sending that book off to you. And again, thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for your support. Really appreciate you being here so that we can, declutter our homes, heads, and hearts together. So let's go ahead. We are going to dive into this. And I'm just going to read excerpts of this question from my listener. She says, "My husband is reluctant to declutter because while he understands that he shouldn't be acquisitive, meaning acquiring more things, he wants to, in moderation, be able to build up more possessions over time. We plan to have a bigger home someday, so if we're growing up in a sense, why should we be restrictive? He compares it to a college student who has to eat ramen because of a small budget versus an adult with a job who can afford more. In this case, who has more space with a larger home. Is it important to be restrictive in every home you're in, or is that a step backwards? I think our disagreement is also influenced by our different visions of what our home should look like. I realize that we're in different places on this and want to be respectful as he works through his hesitations." So she says, "I am currently in a place where I want to cut down significantly on what we have to improve the aesthetic and functionality in our home, but it seems like too much to him since we've been decluttering for years now." Okay, this is a juicy question. I am so excited to dive in. So first of all, she talks about the fact that she and her husband have different visions for what they want their home to be. And I would say the number one thing is to be able to discuss that, because having a shared vision for your home, especially the parts of your home that are shared, the shared spaces and the shared rooms, is really important. So I've spoken before about the 3 F's. How do we want our home to feel, function, and flow? And that goes for rooms, not just the whole home, but being able to discuss what are our goals? I'm working with a couple right now in my virtual coaching, which if you're interested in finding out more about virtual coaching, what that's all about, you can email me at info@simplebyemmy.com. I can talk you through it. But one of their big visions and goals is hospitality. They want to be able to host people in their home. And right now they feel like there's too much stuff. They're not able to do that. So that is a shared vision. However, between them, the husband and wife, they want to hold on to a different amount of things. And that's kind of where we have the compromise, right? So it's very common for family members to have different, what Dana K. White calls clutter thresholds, but not just clutter, just stuff in general. And I would define clutter threshold as the amount of stuff that we can have without it starting to bother us, without it stressing us out. And I know my clutter threshold is far less than my husband and definitely my kids. And so the question is, okay, if we have different levels of tolerance for stuff and what we hold on to, what do we do about that? The other piece of this question, which is kind of interesting, is this concept of as we get older, just having more stuff. And that shouldn't that be the case, that we would have more, especially if our homes get bigger. And I would agree that as we get older, you have more disposable income. So you may graduate from eating ramen to perhaps pasta in the box or whatever the slight upgrade might be. And it's true, you might want to upgrade certain possessions. So perhaps you start and you're a single person living in an apartment with roommates and you have your IKEA couch. And then once you move out and perhaps get married, okay, we're going to upgrade to a slightly nicer couch. Okay. Or perhaps for your electronics, you have kind of like an old TV and then, oh, I want to upgrade to this newer version. But there's a difference between replacing by upgrading something that you use that is functional versus just getting more stuff or having more stuff because you have more disposable income. So it's all a matter of the intention behind the stuff. Why do we own the stuff? I would say that owning more just to own more because we have the space isn't really a good reason. We would want it to be with a lot of intention behind it. So perhaps the intention is the function that the thing has, or perhaps it is planning for, okay, we're planning to have another child, so we need to prepare for that child. And there's something kind of interesting called the Diderot effect. I learned about this through Joshua Becker at Becoming Minimalist. Diderot was an 18th century philosopher who received this beautiful scarlet dressing gown. And when he got this beautiful gown, he looked around at his home and his modest furniture and his straw chair looked terrible when comparing to this beautiful robe. So then it's like, oh, well, this is looking kind of shabby, so I need to replace these other things. And he replaced it with nicer chairs and art and a desk. And then he ended up going into debt because of all the stuff that he got and regretted what had happened. And so for us, it might be, okay, well, I got these new throw pillows on the bed, but yeah, that's really making my bedspread look shabby. And oh, actually, I think that I might want a whole new bed altogether because of this. And it's easy for us to get into this kind of upgrade mentality where like the things that used to be fine aren't fine anymore. And a lot of it might be bred by kind of we're not happy or we're trying to fill this void, right? And so I think it's important to understand, again, the reasoning behind it. So if I were to make a recommendation to this listener, it would be to really sit down and talk to her husband, not only about what are your goals and for our home, how do you want it to feel? How do you want it to function? What are the values we have as a couple that we want to support as far as like hospitality or generosity or any of these types of things? And I just think that that's probably like the best place to start, is having that discussion. And then finding out if he grew up with any financial hardship or lack, if his parents were constantly saying no to things that he wanted because there wasn't enough money. So that might cause him to think that having disposable income means let's buy additional things, because perhaps he grew up kind of with that lack. And knowing that intention and buying things with intention doesn't mean restriction. It's actually freedom to be able to experience a home where everything is reflecting what you want it to be and your values. Finally, if you and your partner have a significant clutter threshold or stuff threshold difference, finding where you can meet in the middle is really helpful. And really understanding, okay, for our shared spaces, this is the kind of comfort levels that we have, and maybe giving your spouse one part of the house where they can have as much stuff as they want, maybe at their desk, or maybe it's like a part of a man cave or something, but where they can really feel their own autonomy over the space instead of all the shared spaces having that higher amount of stuff. So I really hope that this is helpful, that this really kind of encourages conversations between you and your spouse. And if you ever have any questions that you would like me to address on the podcast, you can go ahead and connect with me either on Instagram at Simple by Emmy. You can email me at info@simplebyemmy.com, or you can join the free Facebook group at tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm. And I would be happy to connect with you. So I hope that you have a wonderful week. Bye for now. Hey Mama, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, could you please share this episode with another mom who is feeling overwhelmed? Also, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a 5-star written review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Finally, if you would like more support, come on over to our free Facebook group, tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm. Can't wait to connect with you soon.